at Artsy, but I definitely play a hand cross-functionally throughout the organization. I always have an opinion on something, so they deal with me there at Artsy. As far as entrepreneurial, I started my first company at 19. So I started my first company, Easy Events, at 19. I sold that a couple years later at the age of 21. Tried to go back to college, realized I really wanted to take on the entrepreneurial world and the tech world, so I dropped out and moved to Silicon Valley. And since then, over the past decade, have been able to build some decent companies in the entrepreneurial space and done somewhat well for myself under the umbrella of ET Enterprises. So that's been amazing. I've been able to kind of jump in between passion projects and interests, taking different CMO and marketing roles throughout, my entrepreneurial journey as well. And Artsy was just like the perfect fit, like to be able to wake up every day and work on something that I'm passionate about and help so many people across the board, from artists to small businesses and galleries to collectors. It's something that really motivates me to come into work and give it my all every day. So I feel very, very blessed to be at Artsy. And to answer your last question, I'm in New York, in my home office. Our offices in New York are open now. I'm not too far, but it's a beautiful office, but I'm at home today in my home office.
Yeah, everybody's just been meeting each other in our living rooms for the past year and a half. So I too am in our satellite Brooklyn office for OUTFRONT. But I love having you in my living room. I do love getting to know people a little bit more intimately this way and being able to see kind of what's going on in their home space. And it's been a positive that's kind of come out of this very difficult situation where I feel like some walls are kind of come down and we're really kind of getting together and getting to know each other in each other's living room. So I'm glad to be joining with you in your home office as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So you told us a little bit about the platform. So I had the pleasure of meeting you for the first time last week as we were prepping for this conversation, but our brands are really no strangers to each other. My company, OUTFRONT, has been working with Artsy for the past year and a half as the exclusive content partner of our Moments in Culture series. These digital art exhibitions, they run for 4 weeks on our digital out-of-home screens in major markets throughout the country and showcase artists and their work curated around collective cultural themes. 2 of the most recent being Portrayals of Black Joy by Today's Emerging Artists, and that was in celebration of Black History Month this past February. And currently we're running Expressions of Pride in support of Pride Month, which is going on right now. So what does this partnership mean to Artsy, and how does it help serve your community of artists and collectors?
Yeah, that's a great question. And OUTFRONT Media has been an incredible partner throughout. One of the things that's really important to me as a marketer, and I think it's very important to the company, is that art is something that is very, very special, and it can be a way to really bring people together, but also grow awareness for so many important causes and things that are happening around the world. I'm not caught up in art just for selling art and making $1. I think it's so important to always keep in mind and what's happening in the greater world around us. And I think this partnership has allowed us to do several things, really. Number one, something that's really, really important is accessibility, right? Accessibility to art, for people to be able to discover new art and discover new artists and be introduced to art. I talk a lot about how my first introduction into art was the street art that I would see in the city of Richmond. And I love the fact that we're bringing art to so many people, not just collectors, but people all around the city as they're commuting, being able to serve them these beautiful images and potentially inspire them through this campaign, which I think is really, really beautiful. I think number 2 is, like I said, giving a platform to these very, very important causes, whether it's Black History Month, whether it's Pride, whether it's to support the AAPI community. All of these things are extremely important, and given a platform is super important to this as well. And number 3, I would say, is providing visibility to so many incredible artists, which also, supports their careers and also the galleries and the small businesses that represent them. And, a lot of the artists that we've picked are from, like, in some of our New York campaigns are actually New York based artists or artists that are represented by New York galleries. So to be able to stimulate their businesses through this campaign, I think is a very beautiful thing as well. And then lastly, I would say, just helping people who are interested in buying art discover new artists and giving some of these artists a new platform, really focused and honed in, and making sure that we're not like picking your blue chip Basquiat artists that everyone knows about, but artists that could really use that extra visibility. So I think it comes together so beautifully in a sense of, being able to do something that's not economically driven and really all about providing a platform for important causes as well as others.
Yeah, that very well said. And we feel the same at OUTFRONT. We too have a purpose, and our purpose is making people, places, and businesses grow stronger. And we believe that providing this type of surprise and delight and entertainment and exposure to the people that are passing by our screens throughout their daily journey is a moment of reflection, and it's an opportunity to kind of touch somebody in a way that's outside of just advertising, like seeing an ad for Coke that you've seen on a TV screen and on your iPhone and while you're listening to a podcast. So having those moments of reflection and engagement and meaningful connection with people is something that we strive to do through our media channel as well. So having a partnership with you and then working so closely with you to curate around very cultural and topical themes has been very meaningful to us. And lastly, again, the exposure. I think that one of the things that we know so much about our medium is how important location is and how important contextual relevance is. And when you're talking about really celebrating the artists that are within the community where these messages are being broadcast, it's so powerful, and it makes such a powerful message, and it gets exposure. And then again, just creating that kind of connection, that community message. So we truly value your partnership just as much as it sounds like you value ours. So I hope that we can continue to showcase your artists, showcase your platform, showcase your galleries, and really just bring the art world to people's everyday life as they're going through their commute or walking to their work or dropping their kid off at school. So we thank you for that partnership as well.
Yeah, it's all about inspiring people on an everyday basis and bringing these very, very important things that are happening around the world, and maybe art being able to shift someone's thinking, or like the Pride campaign. These quotes are so amazing with the artworks, right? And it's so engaging. And I think that's what's so beautiful in the power of art and the power of out-of-home marketing. It's just that emotional connection that you can really build with a brand or whatever it is that you're trying to promote or give a platform to. And that's what's been so special about this particular partnership.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So when we spoke last week, we talked a lot about the growing importance of and focus on purpose throughout society. And I think that we all have seen that over the past year and a half, especially with everything that's been going on, whether it was, health related, political related, social justice related. So just understanding the importance and the focus on purpose. And the themes that we've just discussed around Black joy and the expression of pride, those are certainly great examples of the inherent purpose-driven nature of art. So what is Artsy's purpose, and how do you express that on your platform and to your community?
Yeah, I think there's so many things that we're trying to do and we're trying to accomplish. I think one of the things that comes first to mind is just democratization, accessibility. When you're talking about like social justice, for instance, we've committed to changing our algorithms to make sure that artists of color and Black artists and artists from non-traditional backgrounds are being elevated within our recommendation algorithms and things like that. So it's not just the same white male blue chip artists that a lot of people are seeing. Like, I think it's so important on both sides to really provide a platform where people can feel like they're discovering all different types of artists and that they're able to actually buy the works and the artworks that they want. You know, the art world can be very intimidating for a lot of people. I know it was very intimidating for me as I entered into this space. And so we want to create a space that's very inviting, that people feel comfortable, that people feel that this is a space which, you know, anybody can be in, no matter how much money you have, no matter what your social background may be. I think democratization is really, really important to us, and accessibility is very, very important in a you know, a world that has been historically very opaque and kind of hard to crack into, you know. And so I love to hear about stories about, you know, someone who may be an aspiring collector but was able to find beautiful artworks for their living room in their home on Artsy, and they didn't necessarily have to go through maybe the intimidation that it may be to, you know, approach a gallery or step into a gallery and talk to someone. And so that ability to really democratize and make the world accessible, I think, is really at the forefront of our purpose. I think secondly is transparency and seamlessness. Like, one of the things that I spoke about is, you know, before joining Artsy, is that our gallery was the only place of commerce that I've ever been that you don't know what the prices are. Right? You walk in, and even if you ask what the prices are, they may not even tell you what the prices are, right? And so to be able to give that level of transparency, to have visible pricing, to be able to actually buy works because it's available and not have to worry about, hey, I only want to sell to this type of person, you know, those things are, I think, is really, really important for us. And then on the other side is the seamless nature of our technology and the innovation that we're having, where, you know, buying art traditionally is a pretty tedious process, you know, going back and forth with the gallery, invoicing, et cetera, to be able to buy art at a click of a button and just putting your credit card in. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. For something that may have taken a few days going back and forth, can be done within seconds at Artsy. Continuing to innovate on that side is very important. I think there's two more things. It's being able to inspire more people with art every day. I think that's what's so cool about our OUTFRONT partnership is that we're inspiring people with art on a daily basis, whether it's out of home or the artworks that, you know, you have on your home that you're buying from Artsy. Being able to inspire people every day through art and inspire them to support more artists and support more businesses, I think is a very beautiful thing. And then the last side is like, our purpose is really to support and champion artists, right? And to provide, you know, being able to put food on their table and support them and actually make a living wage from art, and then support a lot of the small businesses that are supporting them that really need that extra visibility, that extra lead generation, those extra sales, I think is really our purpose here at Artsy on the B2C side and the B2B side.
Yeah, well said. The other thing that you mentioned when we spoke was Artsy being that you've just kind of stumbled on the greenest way to buy art. So I think that that goes hand in hand with streamlining processes and, again, additional exposure and all that stuff, and where you're not having to leave a carbon footprint by traveling far to a gallery or going to an auction or whatever. So it has been like an unintended positive consequence that you guys are the greenest way to buy art, which is just another great thing to add to your long list of purpose, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that aspect about Artsy, you know, from the lack of carbon footprint to the fact that now, no matter where you are in the world, you can really become a collector and collect things. It's connecting people who may never get a chance to go to Tokyo to buy from a gallery in Tokyo, or may never get a chance to come to America or go to the UK. Like, the ability to be able to match make and connect people all over the world, I think is something that's so beautiful about Artsy. It really takes the ceiling off of what you can be and what you can do within the art world.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that that's what kind of the internet overall has done, that has been such a positive development in lots of different areas of art and culture. You know, thinking about how for like the music industry and like talent scouts going out, and you'd have to be able to be able to play at certain venues so that you would get that type of exposure and possibly be found out or discovered. But now it's like you can have a YouTube channel, and people are R&D execs are scouring the internet to see like what's the next big talent. So being able to have exposure for aspiring or amateur artists, whether that's in the art world or whether that's in the performance world. I think it's just great. And then again, it kind of levels the playing field in a way that we haven't seen historically. So this is just another iteration of that, I think Artsy is.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So let's see, big headline from you guys last week in the news. You had a staggering $6.5 million sale of Julie Mehretu's Dissident Score painting, which was breaking records for not only the largest online art auction, but also the biggest sale for a Black female artist, living or dead. So first off, congratulations to you and Julie Mehretu. And second, what does this sale mean for the future of Artsy and the art world overall, do you think?
That's a really good question. It means a lot of great things, obviously. This is good news for us. I think number one is the impact of this selling on a digital only platform. The person that paid $6.5 million for this never saw this work in person. And this is something, transacting at this price point, even though Artsy has been, moving into, 5, 6, 7-figure ranges, to do something at this level that is traditionally reserved for the major auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's is really, this was like we are here. Like, this is the Artsy.
Plant the flag.
Put the flag in. We are here and we are major players in the art world. I think a lot of people doubted the ability for a digital only platform or a platform like Artsy to be able to move art at that level, or to even have demand for art at that level, because obviously it's different from being able to sell like $1,000 print to a $6.5 million work. So I think it really shows the breadth of the type of collectors that we have on our platform and the ability to really make major sales on our platform, which is a huge thing for us as we continue to move up market and really sell even bigger, more high profile works at Artsy. I think it's going to definitely stimulate our secondary market business. It's going to change a lot of the brand perception around Artsy. I think it's just a huge moment for the company and the art world itself. This is something that's never happened before on a digital only platform. And then also, I would like to say, what's even more beautiful is that it proved the ability for artists to make an impact on societal change through their work. Not only just the subject matter of their work, but also from a financial standpoint, the type of money that we can really raise for really amazing causes. And kudos to Julie Mehretu for creating this beautiful work, which she created over the course of 3 years.
Wow.
To fully donate those funds to the Art for Justice Fund to fight against mass incarceration and the racism that's behind it here in this country. So hats off, but I think it will inspire more artists to say, hey, I can really make an impact through my work and being able to sell my work on platforms like Artsy.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a massive sale and such a great accomplishment for the both of you. And to think about, again, it kind of gets to this democratization and this exposure, having works of art that are going for a couple $1 million alongside works of art that are a bit more attainable, and they're, a couple $100 perhaps, or even less than that. And you just didn't see that in the physical world. In that iteration of a gallery, you just wouldn't see that type of breadth of different types of work within one space. So having this single access point, a single entry point to such a wide spectrum of art, it's unprecedented,
It is unprecedented to have some, gallery that may sell works for under $1,000 that's based in, Omaha, Nebraska, be on the same platform as, a Julie Mehretu. It's just, you just don't see that. And I love that. And even though I know that Julie Mehretu was a lot of money, the one beautiful thing about it was that it went to the person that wanted to pay the most money for it, right? It went to, people had access to this work. Julie Mehretu's work is very hard to get access to. So we were able to provide access. Now, that price point is really high, but then when you think about even the lower price points, giving people that accessibility to art, I think is very important.
Yeah. And that is a nice segue into my next question, actually. So when we last spoke, you shared a fun fact with me that the average distance between collector and gallery on your platform is 3,000 miles. So that's
Yes.
a big wingspan.
Yes.
And talk about unprecedented exposure and connection for the art world that historically could be very inaccessible and exclusive. So has there been resistance from the art world along this journey, whether it's galleries, auction houses, or even artists in some instance, for democratizing art? What has that process been like for you guys, and has it evolved?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been at Artsy less than 2 years, so I haven't been there through the entire journey. But if you would have went to galleries 10 years ago when Artsy was launching and say, "Hey, we want you to be able to sell works online," they would have laughed at you.
Yep.
This is a very traditional industry, and so I think that the world has changed, and we spoke a little bit about the pandemic and things like that. And one of the advantages Artsy had was that we were already the innovators. We were already ahead of things in terms of providing a platform for galleries to be able to transact online, and our partners to be able to transact online and be able to reach new collectors, because galleries largely rely on foot traffic.
Yeah.
And things like fairs for lead generation. And without that, when you can't go out into the real world and have people come around, how are you going to get those leads? How are you going to make those sales? And so Artsy has been a place where we've been able to provide that consistent demand, those consistent sales and lead generation for our galleries. But I think one of the biggest things that we had to overcome was, and still have to, is people being comfortable transacting online. It's a very old school industry. And so, galleries more than ever are comfortable transacting online and using e-commerce. And it's been very, very beautiful to see, but it's still a fight that we have to make. This is something that they've done things the way they've done things for a very, very long time. Another thing is visible pricing, right? Like, there's still so much around making prices visible, and it's a thing. It's like a little bit taboo in the art world, and it's like, why does this thing have to be taboo? And so really encouraging our galleries and our partners to see that this is something that the people want. We just recently did a collector report that's going to release soon, and overwhelmingly collectors want visible pricing. They want to be able to transact easily. And so the shift is happening, and our partners and galleries around the world are shifting with it.
Yeah. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head about just like what a modern consumer looks like now, and how our buying habits have shifted so much in every other part of our life that why wouldn't it go into the art world? Like, we're used to, I remember 10, 15 years ago, like the thought of buying something through my phone, like we had smartphones, but like, I was like, I would never like put my credit card into my phone and like hit add to cart and then purchase something through my phone. And now that's like the silliest thing that I've ever heard. Like,
or order jeans, like simple as ordering jeans or a shirt without trying it on.
Right.
That to me was I still struggle with that a little bit, but like, that's something that's so crazy. And now I know so many people who exclusively buy their clothes online. I know people who are buying cars and houses and other luxury items online without ever seeing it. Art can be the same way. It is beginning to be that way as well.
Yeah. And I think that too, it's that accessibility, but it's also the transparency too, like you mentioned before, and how that is just becoming part of what the modern consumer behavior is. It's like, we want to see that transparency. We want to see, everything up front so that we understand what we're getting into. So having that just front and center versus when you go into a gallery and having to feel like maybe a little bit intimidated by asking about it, or feeling as if you may be like a little embarrassed if it's above your price point or whatever it is, but just going into the platform and knowing that you're going to be able to find all the information that you need right there at your fingertips. relationships. And that's kind of where the modern consumer is going. So appreciate that. So we talked a little bit about the physical world being so disrupted over this past year and a half, which led to explosive growth across the digital world. And that's everything from on-demand services to social and streaming platforms and e-commerce, obviously, like yourselves. So as the physical world is reopening and there is a return to art fairs, as if you mentioned before, and galleries, in-person viewing, all of that good stuff, how do you see that impacting your business? And do you see that more as an opportunity or a challenge? Or both?
I think it's an opportunity. Honestly, the behavior has already shifted. Last week, we had our biggest week in sales ever in our marketplace e-commerce platform, right? And this is during when everyone's having a good time, everyone's out. This is during the summertime. Now, you may not know this, but seasonally, during the summertime is the slowest time during the art world. This is when the art world kind of takes its break and chill out before all of the fairs and things and auctions in the fall. And so, for us to be able to do that in the summertime when traditionally people's sales slow down is just credit to my team and credit to the work that Artsy is able to do to be able to make this like a full-time thing. I look at the NBA, and the NBA has been incredible because they've created year-round storylines. People are talking about the NBA year-round, whether it's free agency, the draft, et cetera, et cetera. They've made it a year-round sport, even though it's only played during a certain time of the year. And like for art, I see it as the same way. We're creating something that is more year-round because we're creating a platform where people can discover and buy artists on a daily basis. They don't necessarily need to go to a fair. They don't necessarily need to walk into a gallery. And I think that's so important. And collectors, like I said, are getting more comfortable transacting online. And they want it to be easy. They want to see visible pricing. They want to be able to just literally put their credit card in, not have to wire money and deal with invoices and signing this and doing this. People want things to be easier for them. And like when you walk into galleries now, you walk into Chelsea galleries, you're scanning QR codes. They used to give you like sheets of paper, things like that. People are scanning QR codes. You go to restaurants, scanning QR codes. People are getting used to this. And this is just an amazing opportunity for, galleries to continue to collect more leads and make more sales through our platform. So I see so many areas of opportunity for us with everything that's happening now. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think people should see art in person. I think that's the best way to experience art, right? Obviously is in person. So I don't see that as a threat to what we're doing. I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that notion of like really kind of shifting the buying calendar to include the whole year, because now you're talking about not having to go to a physical gallery, and maybe you're sitting on, a beach in Tulum and you're scrolling through Artsy and you can buy something right there. It's like, again, it's that access point. It's that exposure where you can really engage with art anytime, anywhere, and be able to make a purchase. So you're not really reliant on a gallery being open or you having access to that gallery or being able to get to that gallery. You can do that whenever you want. It's 2 a.m. You can't sleep. You pull out your phone. There you go. You got yourself a Julie Moretu.
Yep. And one other point that I'll make is that, imagine if, Walmart was limited only by the things that they could sell within their store, right? Walmart is in Target, and these companies are what they are now because they have the e-commerce platform where you don't have to physically be in a store, and they may sell things that might not even physically be in the store, or they don't have space for in the store. The same way with galleries, right? You only have a limited amount of space of things that you could be showing at one time. So you might have a show going on in your gallery, but you can be selling works from all other different artists and things digitally while you have the physical show, and you're not limited by just the physical space that you have.
Yeah, you cut down on overhead that way as well, which is great. So I've got one last question before we turn it over to the Q&A in the audience. When we spoke last week, we talked about the fact that you have two audiences on your platform, and I think that we discussed them today. You've got your B2B group, which are really the galleries and the artists, and then you've got your B2C group, which are your collectors, your aspiring collectors. Could be new to the scene, could be old to the scene. And as we're halfway through 2021, what are your priorities for the back half of the year for these two groups of people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Number one, like, I'm so passionate about helping our partners and the people on our B2B side, especially our small businesses and smaller galleries. We want to continue to help them build great, strong relationships with collectors. Number two, matchmaking, right? Like matchmaking with the right collectors, providing visibility for our galleries and the artists that they represent, like continuing to innovate on that technology to help push that forward, and building and innovating tech that will make their lives easier, making a lot of the processes that have been super tedious for galleries to make that more seamless, I think is so important for us. And then lastly, continue to give them a strong pipeline of collectors and buyers and users, for not only primary works, but also secondary works, right? Things that are in the secondary market. And so I'm really excited for everything that we're building on that side to really make their lives easier, help them make more sales, provide more visibility for them and their artists. And that's something that inspires me every day. And especially for the artist side is to continue to grow demand for artists, especially more diverse artists, and be able to put food on their table and impact their careers and grow demand. I think that's such a beautiful thing. I tell people all the time, one of the beautiful things about buying art, especially buying art on Artsy, is that not only are you supporting my business, thanks friends, but also you're directly impacting and helping an individual creative and artist and putting food on their table, but also impacting with many of these galleries are small businesses. So you're supporting small business, you're supporting creatives and artists, you're supporting my startup, thanks. And you're able to do something where you're preserving history and or buying something that it can be an incredible asset for yourself. People are buying, people think that you have to spend millions of dollars, and you can spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and that piece still may be worth $1 million one day. Like I've seen it, and so it's really, really been incredible to watch to help more artists and provide for them. And then I think lastly for our collectors is, continue to provide the tools and the data for them to make the right purchasing decisions. On Artsy now, you can see free, something that used to be behind a paywall or still is behind a paywall for some of our competitors, et cetera, is free data to really be able to watch and see how an artist market is going, making sure that you're paying a fair price for works, that you're selling works at a fair price. I think that's something that's so important. One of the things that I didn't talk about earlier when you asked me to explain Artsy is that not only can you discover and buy artists, right? You can also liquidate the assets in your home when you need to. And that's something that hasn't been very, very easy in the art world, right? You've seen, businesses like GOAT and StockX be able to help people in different fashion, like the Real be able to help people liquidate their fashion assets, so their sneakers and their memorabilia. But to really be able to help and matchmake for collectors when they need to liquidate the assets in their wall, on their walls. There's trillions of dollars in assets within the art world. So to be able to help them easily and more seamlessly do that is something that is very, very important to us in the second half of the year, and like continue to make discovering and buying artists as easy as possible. So the next time that I talk to you, you're gonna have even more art to show off in your next Zoom meetings, or the next time you're doing a call like this. So that's what we got planned. So
okay, I've got a question here.
Okay.
From the audience.
All right.
What do you see as the biggest future challenge to retail and e-commerce, and the biggest opportunity?
The biggest challenge to retail and e-commerce.
Yeah.
The biggest opportunity. In terms of the biggest challenge is, I think the space is just overwhelmingly competitive. They're like whatever space that you're in the retail e-commerce space, it's just like there's new competitors. For Artsy, there's new competitors popping up every single day. There's nothing new under the sun. So to be able to build, I think the challenge is really to really do great brand marketing and create an emotional connection. And people think that you could just like growth hack your way into this and just do paid ads and et cetera, et cetera. No, like the hard part is creating emotional connection that people want to support you rather than the bevy of competition that you have in the retail and e-commerce space. Like that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about, is really that emotional connection that you're going to have to create with. And that's why the Outfront media thing is so important. It's like you're creating emotional connections. You're having multi-touch attribution because people are not only seeing your ads, but they're also seeing things out of home. They may be watching, you know, this talk that we're having now. So I think creating that emotional connection is probably the biggest challenge to really differentiate yourself amongst so much competition. In terms of opportunity, kind of touching based on what I was talking about earlier in terms of like, you're not limited by physical spaces. It's always the opportunity to really expand and try and create and innovate and sell new things. I think that's the beauty of e-commerce when it comes to retail, is really just not being limited by in-person experiences and the spaces that you have physically.
Yeah, well said. And I think, you know, one of the things that you touched on before was talking about your algorithm and like really kind of honing in on that to give people exposure to more things, or things that would be outside of what maybe they were themselves like specifically looking for. And I think that that's where media has kind of tipped so far to one way, where we are getting so targeted that you just keep getting hammered in with this same very small consideration set, rather than kind of opening up that aperture, opening up that lens to include more things in, so that you have more exposure to things, more choice in things, more greater understanding of things. So understanding that you guys are really focused on that, and you're kind of fine tuning that algorithm to, again, just kind of create this exposure. I think that that's something that probably differentiates you from some of this bevy of lookalikes that are coming onto the scene. And it's using that data to understand your consumer, what they like, what they don't like, what they're responding to, what they're clicking on, and utilizing that to really create such a rich consumer experience that they want to spend time on your platform.
1,000%. You got to be thinking about the entire funnel, right? It's like, you know, brand marketing and really focusing on top of funnel. Also, brand marketing is great for retention and re-engagement as well, in terms of like people feeling good about your brand or being reminded of your brand. And so those two play hand in hand. And like, you know, I'm always thinking about top of funnel, the things that we're doing from a brand side and acquisition side there, but also how are we continuing to engage people, whether it's through our lifecycle marketing or it's continuous brand campaigns, which is continuing to delight our users and our customers, and also for them to see Artsy in a positive light and understand our core value props as we continue to evolve.
So in that vein, I do have another question here that's just asking, really trying to get into understand, what do your marketing efforts look like? How are you finding your audiences, in which places and spaces, and what types of messaging are you putting in front of them?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So one of the things that we have an advantage of over, you know, some others is that our world is a niche place, and we have 2 million, you know, people on our 2 million plus people on our platform. So one of the things that I joke about is that we have the best audience already. How do we get more out of the audience that we currently have, and how do we engage that audience? So at Artsy, it's a little bit different because we have so much gold right in the audience that we've already been able to build and collect and things like that. And it's like, how do we make sure they understand all of the benefits and that we're touching them in the places that we want to? And so, you know, art is easier in a sense of, because it's niche, there's like very, you know, different like specific moments where the art world comes together, where it's Art Basel Miami, or it's Freeze London, these big fairs, or there's big openings in a city, or like you know, a concentration of galleries like Chelsea in New York, right, or Culver City in LA, et cetera, et cetera. And so understanding where your audience is and creating marketing that's going to engage with them, whether it's, you know, something like direct mail campaign, we can create lookalike audiences to send direct mail to collectors and people who are interested in art throughout the world. And so whether it's in their homes, whether it's digitally where they're spending time, whether it's podcast or, you know, different art related newsletters, et cetera, we are going to be wherever people who are interested in collecting art is.
Yeah. Oh, that must be the bell.
Yes.
Emily's joining us to pull us off stage. Oh, you're on mute.
So sorry.
Rookie move, Emily.
I know, so embarrassing after 1 year. I was saying I'm coming in with the hook to pull you off stage, but we so